Hey guys, welcome back to the Overseers. This is our 21st episode, and Nightwing and I are super excited to kick things off with our predictions. It's week one week one begins in 2 days, and we are going to be sharing our predictions for all of the matches that are going to be happening over the 2 days that they're going to be conducted, both for the NA as well as the APAC regions. And we are going to try and keep our predictions posts fairly short so that we don't take up too much of your time and just get the meat out of the way. All right, so first up, we don't know what the meta is going to be this week. What's your read on it though, Nightwing? Because at times it's very close to what the high end of the ladder is playing, but sometimes the pro scene, certain heroes, for example, Sombra and May, they are just way more viable in the pro scene than on ladder. So, what's your read? What do you think the meta is going to be this week?
Okay, so in terms of the meta, what we're basically looking at here is still the this like hybrid meta where like you've got some people playing just int in rush comp uh, with like May, McCree, Ryan, Lucio Bap, etc. etc. Uh, you've also got double bubble in which you have Monkey Zarya, Tracer, maybe Echo or Sombra. These three DPS are being rotated mostly. Um, and then again, Bap and Lucio, just because Bap is overpowered and Lucio is like just ever present at times. But also on certain maps, you'll see actually the majority of maps now, you see that Ana Brig is also being played. Uh, Sometimes Ana Lucio, but it's not very effective.
Yeah.
So it's either going to be for support duos, it's either going to be Bap Lucio or Ana Brig, depending on really what kind of sidelines available, and just like what your emphasis for your comp is. So that's there. And then for some teams, I think because double bubble is hard to execute and it's a bit easier to execute the ball Zarya comp, where you have a lot more raw damage and it's not so much about coordinating your team. Uh, I think some teams will opt for this ball Zarya comp. And yeah, so I think these three rotations between brawl, double bubble, and balls are what's going to be seen. If there's something new, then that would be interesting. But I think I'm expecting these.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I totally agree with your read. I think that's what even the higher end of the ladder has been playing. I think the DPS heroes and even the tanks are mainly going to depend on the comfort picks of all the teams. Uh, the good thing is that the meta is pretty diverse at the moment, so it's not like just six to eight heroes that are being consistently played. You're seeing 15, 16 many like maybe different heroes that are being played across a lot of different maps in a lot of different situations. So I think a lot of teams are going to be just able to stick to their comfort picks rather than sort of adhere to a set meta which they are not good at. So that said, should we get into the predictions, Nightwing? Are you ready?
Yeah, let's get into it.
All right. So just a quick note before we begin, guys. Do remember that if you like our analysis, our predictions, our episodes, do share them with any other Overwatch League fans. We are still a relatively new podcast type series, but we really appreciate some more exposure if you guys like our content. So that would really motivate us to work harder and put more effort in there for you guys. So let's get started then. First, we'll go through the NA matches and then go through APAC. So let's kick things off with the first match, which is going to be uh, the Houston Outlaws versus the Dallas Fuel. And these are our predictions. Nightwings are on the right side, mine are on the left. We are on the Overwatch League Pick'em website, as you can see. And pretty similar predictions. I think both of us are pretty confident that the Fuel are going to take this matchup. Where do you think that one map Houston wins is going to come from, Nightwing? What flaw do you think the Fuel might have? Yeah, obviously XZ's retirement. We don't know which other hits can player they have yet, but do you see any other things going wrong for the Fuel?
So I mean, I'm not expecting Fuel to really announce a signing immediately, like one day before. So it's likely going to be Sparkle on the Tracer, and I think that may be the one opportunity that Houston have to take away the map, because I think Dante is just definitely the superior Tracer in that matchup.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, And again, like I do in most episodes, I put a Tracer as almost more important than the rest of the team. Sometimes because I'm a Tracer main, but uh, I just think that that's probably the only real opportunity Houston have. If they're not able to capitalize on that, or Dallas do somehow sign a Tracer player in like one day, uh, then yeah, it's probably a 3-0.
Yeah, I agree for the most part. I just put it as 3-0 because I'm that confident that the Fuel will still be competent enough to pull through this. Because even though they don't have a hit scan player, this meta is, thankfully, it's no longer a double hit scan meta. Otherwise, the Fuel would be in big trouble. Even though they don't have a Tracer, I think they can probably put Sparkle's Tracer in for this meta and still get away with it because it's like Tracer's not exactly the carry in this meta, right? You
Yeah.
if you're playing double bubble, it's mainly the Winston that has to be the carry, coordinating all of the resources and the pushes with his teammates. So it's really
The other
about the
thing
team. Yeah, go on, go on.
The other thing though is that with like a brawl comp, McCree is pretty OP right now, and he is almost sometimes the carry for that comp.
Hmm.
Uh, and in that case, like they don't really have a hard McCree player, Dallas.
True.
Again, I think that is somewhere where Houston can still pull through.
Yeah.
But I mean, even being optimistic, I think Houston will still at max take one map. If we're really wrong, they'll take two. But I think overall the Dallas synergy and just the caliber of players is high enough that I think they'll walk away with this match.
Hmm. Also remember that Juby isn't that great of a brick player, so I think that's one more advantage that the Fuel will have. Uh, in case Juby hasn't gotten himself comfortable on that hero yet. But yeah, I mean, they could very well win one map off of Dante's Tracer if they get the opportunity. But let's move on to our second prediction then, which is about the match with the Gladiators and the Shock. And oh wow, we haven't actually seen each other's predictions so far, I think so. We have the exact same one. Nightwing, do you want to break the reasoning for this down or should I?
Okay, so here's the thing. Both of these rosters have some great players on every role, right? I would even go as far to say I'm maybe slightly more confident in the Gladiator support line than I am the Shock, just by a little bit. Just because I think Shu and Moth is slightly a better duo than FD God and Violet or Twilight. Um, but apart from that, I think it's just that the Shock has incredible coaching, and that's really going to be the difference maker here. Um, I think uh, one of the reasons why I'm not putting Shock as just running away with it is because I'm not sure if the hit scans on Shock are like I don't know what their caliber is going to be. Whereas I think I'm quite solid on what Birdring is going to perform like. I'm not sure how Glister or whoever else they put on that role is really going to match up. I mean, yeah, they might put Striker, in which case that would be good. Um, but then I don't know. It's a bit of a toss up. I think uh, if it ends up being a double bubble face off, I think Shock almost has the advantage just because of Striker and also Smurf's great Winston. I don't know how much I would rate Muse's Winston, but I definitely know how strong Smurf's Winston and Striker's Tracer is. So Shock do run away with this in that scenario, but uh, there's just a few factors where I think LA is still a very strong team and they can at least pick up a map or two.
Hmm. Okay, let's move on to the next one because I think you covered all the points. The next match is between the Defiant and the Titans, and we are both pretty set on this one. I think I'll take this one, Nightwing. So the reason, I mean, it's pretty obvious why we rate the Defiant higher than the Titans. The Titans have a pretty weak roster this year. If you watched our power rankings episode, you would know how low we are on this team. So are many other analysts. I think even if you play Ryan Zarya or if you play Double Bubble, the Refine just take it away because of Sado primarily. He is really good on both the Reinhardt and the Winston. I'm pretty sure Shredlock comes nowhere close. Even if you look at the Tracer role, the Defiant have got Logics. The Titans have got Dalton, which I think is a closer matchup than the one between Shredlock and Sado. But then again, if you look at the viability of Sombra, who works well with Winston as well as Reinhardt, Hisu is an absolute crackhead. He's going to completely destroy whoever's playing Sombra for the Titans. Um, and the backline of the Refined as well, with either Lastro or Aztac, and then Ansunje is just way better than Rolf and Fire. So I think we are both pretty confident it's going to be a piece of cake for Toronto.
Yeah, I
Sh-
would almost be surprised if Vancouver takes them up.
yeah, same here, same here. Should we move on to the next one then, Nightwing?
Yeah.
Alright, so the next one is between the Rain and the Mayhem, and we again agree. Okay. I think I'll let you go on this one.
Okay, so as we discussed in the power rankings episode, we're just not very trusting in OG at the moment. He's been consistently just like a bit of
Inconsistent.
a disappointment, bit of a disappointment compared to what his quote unquote potential is. And at the beginning of the season, there's some nerves in the season, and I'm not sure if Mayhem can really fix up because of that. Um, you can take over, Proilios. I have to do something.
Okay. Alright, so if you just look at the straight up tank matchup, I think that is a slightly closer one in terms of Gator and OG. Uh, because Gator isn't really known for his Winston play, whereas OG plays a fantastic Winston if he is in form. But that's the thing, right? We don't know if we are going to get the good OG or the bad OG because his skill level is so unpredictable on any given day. I think if you compare something like the Zarya matchup, I think Gargoyle takes that one. Uh, but again, if you just look at the whole setup between both teams, right, I'm just more confident in the Rain as sort of a, I don't want to say organization, but I think the team structure is more suited for this meta than the Mayhems. Although the Mayhem have some good pieces, like they have Yaki's Tracer with them, they have BQB's McCree. Well, the Rain have some really good pieces of their own as well. They've got Kai on the McCree, they've got Edison on the Tracer. If they need to play Echo, they have Pelican. Uh, the Mayhem have Yaki. So this is a really exciting matchup actually. It's really close. I think the Mayhem could take it if OG shows up on that day and sort of displays hints of his former glory. But other than that, it's sure to be a really entertaining match. And Nightwing, should we move on? Are you there?
Yeah, I'm back. Sorry,
Yeah. All
had
right.
to take a quick pause.
Sure. So the next match is between the Fuel and the Gladiators, and ooh, we clash. Honestly, the reason I put this prediction is because I'm really unsure of how this match is going to go. I just kind of yeah, this is what I do. Generally, when I'm unsure of an outcome, I just kind of meme it. Uh, I honestly don't know which team's going to win this. I think Nightwing, you can pitch in why you think the Gladiators are going to take it.
Okay, so the thing with the fuel, like I mentioned, lack of a great McCree, I think, which Birdring covers in the brawl comp. Uh, and I mean, the tank matchup, I would favor fuel a little bit. I think that's why I would probably give at least one map to them. Uh, in terms of off tank matchup, I think Hanbin versus Space. If Space is feeling it, I think he can take that matchup fairly as well. It's just the DPS diff, really. I think that uh, really makes this a win for Gladiators and Mayans. What about you?
Yeah, I do believe the DPS diff is in favor of the Gladiators. If at all it's a matter of the tank matchup, I do believe it's going to be much closer. I rate Hanban higher, like fairly higher than I rate Space actually. I don't know if that's a hot take, but Hanban has just like last year he was super impressive, and Space, even though he was consistent, I don't think he had that much explosive potential. And I do believe Fearless is a better Winston and a better Reinhardt than Muse. So I think the tank matchup favors the Fuel. Uh, if you consider the supports, it's really I think Moth and Shu could be better here, but I'm not really sure because it's a meta in which Ana is still pretty strong if you're playing double bubble especially, and Fielders Ana I would say I rate probably as good as Shu's Ana, and if it's a matter of if it's a matter of Brig, I think Jexa was pretty decent on that hero, and Moth is also pretty decent on that. Uh, so I don't really know how this is gonna go. For now, I'm just going to stick with my fuel prediction. I definitely don't think it's going to be a trio, realistically speaking. And honestly, the gladiators just might take it. But yeah, since I'm unsure, I've just put a meme prediction in there. Should we move on, Nightwing?
Yeah, let's move on.
All right. So the next match is between the Outlaws and the Shock, and okay, again, pretty close predictions. Uh, yeah, do you want to go first?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think. I think Proilios is just being kind to the Outlaws, honestly, by giving them a map. Because I just went for three. I don't think Outlaws really stand a chance against the Shock.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, unless their synergy with FD God is just that bad, or I don't know, the DPS that they've used to like replace arms, for example, are just uh, much worse than we expected. I think Shock take this.
Mm-hmm. I'm just putting a little bit of faith. Actually, you know what? I think we should go over what scores we've put as well. I think that's our bad over there because if there's anyone who's actually unable to view these scores, for some reason, we should really go over that. Um, should I just quickly recap the scores we've put so far? Because I don't think
Yeah,
we've
I mean,
mentioned them.
if you feel like.
Yeah, because I don't. Yeah, I don't want to impede any viewers who are unable to actually see the scores on screen. So okay, it's a quick recap for the first match, which was Outlaws versus Fuel. I predicted a 3-0 for the Fuel. Nightwing predicted a 3-1 for the Fuel. For the Gladiators versus Shock matchup, we both predicted a 3-2 win for the Shock. For Defiant versus Titans, we both predicted a 3-0 win for Defiant. For Rain versus Mayhem, we both predicted 3-2 for the Rain. For Fuel versus Gladiators, I predicted a 3-0 for the Fuel because I'm unsure, and Nightwing predicted a 3-1 win for the Gladiators. And on to the match at hand, which is Outlaws versus Shock. Nightwing's put a 3-0 for Shock, I've put a 3-1 for Shock. I think I've just put a little bit of a leeway because I think in this meta, especially, there's potential for there to be a Zarya diff. And I do believe Piggy is actually leaps and bounds ahead of Chohyobin in terms of Zarya play. It's like I've seen both of them play Zarya a decent bit, and I do believe Piggy is like definitely stronger. Um, it's just like a safer prediction than a 3-0, I think, although it could very well be a 3-0. I'm just playing it a little bit safe. Should we move on to the next one?
Yeah, go ahead.
Alright, so the next one is the match between the Mayhem and the Titans. And I have predicted a 3-1 for the Mayhem, and Nightwing's predicted a 3-0 for the Mayhem. So I think
You
I've
take
just
this one.
gone a little bit safe here as well. I I genuinely I've just left some space in there in case OG just messes up really badly. But I think it could very well be a 3-0 for the Mayhem. Any points to add, Nightwing?
I think Florida might be the gatekeeper of this season, like like Atlanta was last season, where they lose to all the teams above them and win against all the teams below them. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Getting that feeling, just because I think at the clutch moment where like the fine details matter, I think OG is going to kind of mess it up a bit. Um, but we'll have to see.
Mm-hmm. Alright, so moving on to the next match between the Defiant and the Rain. Oh, we've actually got pretty close predictions. Uh, so we are both predicting a 3-2, except I'm predicting the Defiant to win, Nightwing's predicting the Rain to win. So what's your argument for this? Why do you think the Rain has the upper hand here?
Uh, as a DPS player, I just have to look at the DPS players, honestly. I think I've just seen more promise in Pelican, for example. And I mean, Hisu is definitely great, but I'm not too sure how Nice will perform, to be honest with you. And I mean, Logix is, I think, just not at that very top yet. And definitely is just going to straight up lose the Tracer 1v1 against Edison, for example. Um, and I mean, Atlanta has a really good hit scan and Kai as well, who I think will go toe to toe with Hisu if Hisu decides to play hit scan. So I think,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, Atlanta is in the better spot. Uh, in terms of tanks, yes, I think Sado will beat out Gator, but I think Hawk will beat out Michelle, honestly. Not too high on Michelle, so I don't know. It's a very close one, and I think either one of these could happen. Uh, I think something like Dive might slightly favor in terms of the tanks, would favor the Defiant, but maybe Brawl would favor Atlanta. So it really depends on uh, what maps end up being played, because a lot of these metas, like the meta that you choose, is kind of uh, map dependent. So it really just depends on what maps are there, I think, honestly.
Yeah, I think all your points were pretty spot on. I do believe that in this case, I don't know, I've just got a feeling. I think the tank diff as well as the support diff will play out in favor of the Defiant. I do agree that Hawk will probably play a better off tank than Michelle. But I think the gap between Saro and Gator is, at least on the Winston, is quite massive. And I also rate the supports of the Defiant fairly higher compared to the Reigns. So I think that's what wins this game out for me. But I do think the Rain have a DPS advantage. So that's why you're completely right. Uh, and I think we can move on to the next match then, which is and now we are moving on to the APAC region, guys. So the first match is between the Guangzhou Charge and the Shanghai Dragons, and Nightwing has predicted a 3-1 for the Dragons, and I've predicted a 3-2 for the Dragons. Um, and I believe in this case, at least for me, uh, I do believe that the Charge are in a pretty good place in this meta because of Krong's ability to play a really high level Zarya as well as a really high level Diva. Although Void on the other side has the same skill set, and both these off tanks are toe to toe in terms of skill level. I have a bit more faith in the Guangzhou Chargers' entire sort of setup for this meta because I think Eileen is really good on any flanker. So if you put him on the Tracer, if you put him on the Genji even sometimes or the Sombra, I think he's going to do a phenomenal job. Although it's a tough matchup against Lip and Fleta, whom I think will play in this meta. I didn't expect that to rhyme, but it's yeah. I do think it's going to be a closer match than we expect, and also I think that the gap between Rio and Fate is much closer than a lot of us would imagine. I think Rio is still a good Winston. Nightwing does believe he's a feeder based on what he saw in the open scrim they had with the NYXL. I just think he was having a bad day, but yeah, I think that's why it's going to be a bit closer than we expect. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, I genuinely think that Rio is just not as good as Fate. Even if Fate is like not even like in the top echelon of main tank players. Um, in terms of DPS, I think yeah, Eileen's Tracer is serviceable, and it's pretty good, but I think like the DPS on Shanghai are just better. Uh, if they have to play Echo, then they have a better Echo. If they have to play Sombra, they have a better Sombra. If they have to play McCree, they have a better McCree as well, in my opinion. Like, I think there is just not a lot of dimensions in which Guangzhou is anywhere better. I was thinking about putting this as a 3-0, honestly, but I thought maybe just put in one to be safe. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, there is almost no conceivable way I think I see Shanghai losing this match or even dropping like two maps.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I think let's move on then. The next match is between the Valiant and the Hunters, and Nightwing has put a 3-0 in favor of the Hunters, and I've put a 3-2 in favor of the Hunters. Do you want to go first?
No, you can take this one. Why do you think they'll get two maps?
Alright, so I always consider Chengdu as a slightly iffy team. I have a feeling that they are going to go off meta starting off with week one. Um, that's what I think Coach Rui or Arya, however you pronounce that, that's what he leans towards, right? He had to play a bit more of ball comps in the past couple of years because of Among's inflexibility. Uh, but I think that might also carry forward a little bit into this year. And I think Rui is still going to be figuring out this team's sort of desired playstyle and desired sort of ideal lineup, starting six, you could say. And I think that's where they are going to have some growing pains, right? They still need to figure out what lineups they want to run in the Overwatch League. And while Valiant are definitely a significantly weaker team overall, I think they this is a meta in which the DPS can carry if the tank matchup is fairly even, uh, and I think the off tank situation is in favor of the Valiant here. I do believe Shocheng is better at off tank than either Elsa or Late Young. He does play a good Zarya, and that's going to be the most popular off tank based on what we see. So I do think the Valiant get a couple of maps off here. You can go next.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. I think we'll just have to see. I think I don't know. I think the addition of Gaga just makes this team quite strong, like at least stronger than the Valiant. Uh, I don't know. I think maybe a 3-1, but I would be quite surprised if it's a 3-2. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, for the Eastern region, I decided to move my set because I mean, like some people are just holding on to that dream of Valiant not winning a single map. I don't think that will happen,
Mm-hmm.
but it would be pretty funny if it did. So yeah.
All right. Well, moving on to the next match, which is between the Fusion and the Dynasty. I have predicted a 3-2 win for the Fusion, and Nightwing has predicted a 3-2 win for the Dynasty. I think you can start off here, Nightwing.
Yeah, I think the difference here is just that I'm not so confident that they'll be able to immediately accommodate their new pickups in Toby and Hotba. And I mean, it does take a lot of scrim time to get used to the team's rotations. Sure, Hotba has played on the Fusion before, but his main tank is different this time. So you have to kind of build up that tank duo, which I think they might have a hard time doing immediately, considering how recently they've made the pickups. Soul has been scrimming for a longer time, and they've been looking decent in showing such as the open scrim against Washington. So, wait, was it Washington? Was it NYXL? I don't know. I think it was Washington.
Yeah, I
I
think
don't
it
know.
was Washington as well.
Yeah. So they look pretty good in that. And I mean, I'm pretty high on Washington as well. So I think just because of the like inexperience of the team playing together, Seoul will edge this one out. But the individual like skill of a lot of these players is also very high. So I don't really know. It could go either way.
Mm-hmm.
That's why we both you've gone for 3-2 for Fusion. I've gone for 2-3. So we'll see.
Mm-hmm. I think where the Dynasty might run into problems because I think these lineups are right now in a fairly close position for this meta, as you can see from our predictions. I think the Fusion has a main tank advantage here because Mano can play both the Rhine and Winston to a really high level, and I don't think Marvel's Reinhardt is as good as Mano's. If they want to put gesture in on Winston, then that's fine based on the map definitely. But Mano can play both these main tanks at a high level compared to Marvel, at least I would say. And even if Gesture's put on Winston, it's just going to be a close matchup. And if it's, let's say, if you're playing Numbani, right, you generally play Winston on A, and then after that, it's mostly favoring Brawl. So then you swap to Reinhardt, and if there's like a situation where Soul needs to do that, I think Fusion clearly gets that advantage. So unless I think they've trained Marvel to be uh, that good on both the Reinhardt and Winston, there's going to be a little bit of struggling for the dynasty.
Imagine this. They've been training gesture on off rank this season, this off season. So what they do is on A they go like Marvel off tank, gesture on monkey. Then as soon as they cap the point, gesture goes off tank, and Marvel goes to main tank.
And to use on the bench, like I might joke to you.
2 years on DPS. It's playing May.
Wow.
I'm just kidding, but yeah, I think this is a close match. I think it's just the inexperience of the team that will really make a difference because I think individually I would almost put uh, Fitz below Carpe for the McCree. Um, though I think Carpe and Profit would be a fair matchup on the Tracer. So like I said, individual pieces are good for both teams, but Solar just had more scrim time with their rosters, so
Mm-hmm.
that's basically the difference maker for.
Sure. Okay, then moving on. The next match is between the Charge and the Dynasty. Nightwings predicted a 3-1 win for the Charge, and I have predicted 3-1 win for the Dynasty. I've predicted a 3-2 win for the Dynasty. Uh, do you have any points to add here? Because I think my position is pretty clear on where both these teams lie. Um, so yeah, I think you can share any thoughts you have.
Yeah, I mean, I just think Soul is better. Like,
Yeah,
uh,
yeah,
I think
true.
I'm putting them above Fusion for this particular week, like not overall, but for this particular week, just because Fusion hasn't had much time, and Guangzhou is, I mean, below Fusion. So if I'm putting that match as a 3-2, this one, in my eyes, is a 3-1. But
Hmm.
if I'm wrong, then we'll love to see.
I think it could definitely be a 3-1. I'm just playing it a little bit safe by giving Charge two maps in case, they just play better than we expect. That's all. Uh, Alright, let's move on to the next match, which is between the Hunters and the Dragons. And Nightwings put a 3-1 win for the Dragons. I've put a 3-2 win. Again, a bit of a conservative prediction here. I think the main tank advantage, assuming Gaga is going to be fielded, lies in favor of the Hunters. Other than that, I think the DPS rotation this year for the Hunters is pretty flexible, but like I said, there are going to be some growing pains with respect to their starting six, so that's where they falter. And yeah, just a safe prediction to give the Hunters two maps. What about you, Nightwing?
Okay, so I'm actually not sure what your like hierarchy of teams is, because if you're going for a 3-2 with the Dragons against Hunters, and then you're going for a 3-2 with Hunters against Valiant, I mean, you must think that the Asian teams are a lot closer than I think they are. Uh, I think Chengdu, while I mean they're better than Valiant, but they're not. I don't think they can really keep up with Shanghai Dragons. I think even one map is uh, is just there for Gaga, but apart from that, I think I would just favor Dragons a lot more.
Fair
So
enough.
that's where my 3-1 comes from. I think the skill level like gap is still there. Uh, so yeah.
Yeah, fair enough. I wasn't too sure about the score. I was like, yeah, what if the Hunters pop off? So, 3-2. Uh,
Yeah, maybe they'll have so in physics there's that concept of resonance, right?
mm-hmm.
Where like or
Oh,
was it no, it's constructive interference, right? Where like you have two waves and then if they overlap with each other, they can either like get doubled or like cancel each other out, right? If you have two identical waves. So considering that they have Jinmu and Kaneki, which is the exact same character from Tokyo Ghoul, was it?
I
So
have
either
no
they'll
idea.
be yeah. So Kaneki and Jinmu are actually the same character, like based off of the same character in this particular anime. So Jinmu and Kaneki is actually just the same name, effectively. And their hero pools are pretty much the same as well. So maybe they'll have like constructive interference and they'll have like a double powered, just cracked out DPS player. But unless that happens, I don't see them getting maps.
Okay, let's move on to the next matchup, which is between the Fusion and the Valiant. And we are both in unison in agreeing that the Fusion just smashed the Valiant trio. Do we need to explain this? Is it
Do
like
we?
absolutely necessary? I don't think it is. The Fusion's just like significantly better than the Valiant. That's pretty much it. Any points to add, Nightwing?
No, no. I think they could even play like Poco on 250 ping and still beat Valiant 3-0, honestly. Like it's not even close, I think.
Mm-hmm. Okay, then, guys, I think that ends our match predictions episode 21 of the Overseers. If you guys liked it, do remember to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Turn on the bell icon so you know when we post next, which will probably be sometime next week. because I don't think we have anything left to cover before the matches begin. And also, like I said before, remember to share this episode with any Overwatch League fans so that we can keep the conversation about the Overwatch League alive and flowing. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Nightwing, anything to add, or should we round it off?
Just that as a fan of the Overwatch League, I'm excited to see what the new casting duos will be like. Like they've got what Jaws with a caster named Vicky Kitty, I think it
Yeah,
was.
yeah, she's
Uh,
from Contenders. Yeah,
yeah, I watched her cast with Hurix, or I don't know how that's pronounced. I think it's Hurix.
it is.
Uh,
Yeah,
yeah, and she's pretty good. So I want to see how these new casting duos are going to be like.
if I'm not wrong,
And
Vicky Kitty is a shoutcaster, right? Not a color commentator.
yeah, uh, honestly, I think Jaws could handle almost any role.
Oh yeah.
Like either one of the roles, I think he's good at both. Like just as a viewer, it's going to be interesting to see how these new casting duos really come up.
Mm-hmm. I'm
Also, I really want to see Brennan's sideshow cover a Valiant match.
yeah, that's going to be interesting. Okay, one thing that I'm super disappointed with the Overwatch League about is that they did not get Wolf back. I'm just absolutely gobsmacked by this because I mean, Wolf and Achilles is personally my favorite casting duo. Although I like UberX a lot as well. I know there are a lot of UberX simps out there. Uh, I do really like those guys as well. But I think a sort of unique dimension which Wolf brought to the cast was his sort of unique. He sort of was like a walking encyclopedia. Like Achilles had described him when we spoke during an interview. I think I'll link that somewhere in the description so you can read about our conversation. But I think the sort of background and the storylines Wolf created were really crucial in making the cast more interesting and colorful. And he was genuinely like the true definition of a color commentator. I think losing him is a big L. Although I am excited to see Avril getting a spot in the league, I would really like it if they somehow brought Wolf back. And honestly, just bring Pixie in there and get Avril and Pixie to cast separately. But yeah, I think that's pretty much it. And we'll round things off in this episode, and we will see you next week, guys. Hope you guys enjoy the matches this weekend. We'll see you then. Bye.